if at all possible. Our guest speaker, Corey, has said that he is fine with chat staying on, so it will be on, but only use chat this first hour to ask questions or comments about his presentation. Do not use it to network. We'll do that second hour. All right. And we do not share slide decks of our presenters, so please take notes on anything that you want to remember. Okay, with that, I want to introduce Corey to you. He has been with us a few times. The first time we met Corey, he was part of a recruiter panel, and everyone thought he was so fabulous. We had him come back on his own. He is a Fortune 100 recruiter. That's his day job. He also runs a side hustle career coaching business called Career Shakers, where he meets with private clients and gives presentations like he's doing for us today. He likes to help people plan out their career and then, of course, find their next job. And not only does he speak at workshops, technical events, he has been on radio shows and has a YouTube channel where he posts weekly career content. So I'm sure he's going to tell you about that. So if you want to subscribe and watch his YouTube channel, you can. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Corey. And Corey, thank you for being here today.
No, thank you. And what a great introduction. I love it. This is actually, I think, my third time speaking at Nova, and always happy to come back. And today we're going to be talking about networking to get referrals, networking to get job opportunities, open more doors for you. If you guys are trying to do a career switch and I went through one myself, it's really difficult to get a job and for someone to like take a chance on you. And networking is probably your best bet in order to open those doors as well. So we'll go through some tips and tricks as well as general rules to live by. And I am recovering from a bit of a cold, so if you hear the coughing every once in a while, don't worry, I'm not contagious. But we are working through some of that. But they give you a brief overview about my background. But the reason why I felt like I was somewhat qualified to tell all of you about networking was when I was doing my career switch. In between jobs, I was driving for Lyft, and I actually ended up getting 3 separate job offers. 2 were in HR, and then 1 was actually in finance and accounting, which is what I used to do in my previous life. And just through having conversations, driving people around for Lyft, I was actually able to get some job offers. And that's kind of really what opened my eyes in terms of the power of networking. And even when I got my first job, so I went to Santa Clara University here locally in the Bay Area, and my first job was actually in management consulting for one of the big 4 firms. And for these consulting jobs, they actually didn't traditionally hire from my university. Most of the hiring went from like Stanford, Berkeley, Ivy League schools, top business programs. Santa Clara is a great school. I loved it, but unfortunately, we don't have that same gravitas that a lot of the other business schools have. And so we were not on the recruiting radar. They did not come to my campus to recruit. And if I had just applied online, I would not have gotten an interview. But I networked a lot my junior and sophomore summers. I actually had over 95 networking conversations with different people from different firms in the management consulting group. And at my 96th call, I ended up connecting with a director who's actually one of my good friends to this day, but he actually gave me an opportunity to interview for the firm after he heard about how many people I've been networking with, and I was taking my opportunity very seriously. Obviously, I had a good resume to back up all of my claims, and I was able to pass my interview, but a lot of doors have only really opened up for me just because of networking, and hopefully I can take some of those tips and tricks that I've learned, also things that I've applied and taught some of my clients, and then help all of you expand your network and get job opportunities as well. Now, normally this is the part of my presentation where I say everyone can do their networking in the chat, but as I've learned at Nova, you are not using your chat function for that, which is totally fine. And all of you are putting hopefully like your job titles or your industries or what it is that you're looking for in your Zoom profiles right now. But please do use the chat to ask me for questions. Feel free to get clarification if I'm not explaining something very well. But this is a sneak peek of what we're going to cover today. So who to network with, because I feel like that's really important. Everyone kind of I feel like puts and focuses their time networking with the wrong people that don't produce enough fruit for your labor. And for those of you who are more introverted, networking feels a little foreign and uncomfortable for you. This is actually very important. I think knowing who to spend your time with, making sure that you're using your social battery in the right place, can give you the most fruit. What to actually say when you're trying to network with people, network with strangers. And then I've got my networking rules to live by. And then people have been asking me about networking events in general. Which ones are a good use of time? What's a good ROI? And how to actually approach and best use your time at these networking events if you do choose to go to. But if there are questions or topics that you thought I was going to cover about networking that I'm not covering in the agenda today, you can use that chat function as well. I already see that there's some questions here. Can you get unemployment benefits while you are a Lyft driver? So, Lyft driving, yeah, you are 1099 contractors. I don't believe, I'm not a legal attorney. I actually have no idea if you can get unemployment benefits if you are a Lyft driver because you're not employed, you're not W-2, you're 1099. So great question. I don't actually know if someone is from the,
The answer is no.
got it. Okay. There is your answer. Okay, so let's start with a quick, fun little pop quiz here. You can use the chat function if you like, or actually, no, yeah, you should use the chat function. Don't come off mute. I'll take that back. Who do you all think is best to network with first? Is it your family, your friends, coworkers, or people that you may not know yet, but you know that they work at the exact company that you want to work at? They have the exact same job that you're trying to apply to. You find them on LinkedIn. What is the best person to network with first? Looks like C and D seem to be the most popular choices. There was a, yeah, okay, probably C and D, C and D, 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 D. Yeah. Okay. So, surprise, surprise, it's actually C. It's actually C. I know D is the one that everyone defaults to. Like whenever you tell someone, "Hey, you should network," everyone's first thought is D, right? Which is, all right, I'm gonna go on LinkedIn, I'm gonna type in some job titles, I'm gonna find the company I want to work at, and I'm gonna start adding people that I don't know. I'm gonna start adding them and writing messages saying, hey, can you give me a referral for this job? That is very normal. That is everybody's first thought. And as someone has said, as an introvert, this is also very difficult. Now, why is it C? Well, your coworkers are actually the best because they can talk about your work, which for any of you who work at companies that allow you to refer people, you probably have realized that most companies have some type of referral form or like some type of questionnaire that you have to fill out when you are referring somebody. And the big thing that recruiters care about, hiring managers care about if someone does refer you is have you worked with them? Can you tell me if they're a good employee? Like, why should I hire this person, Corey? You're referring Joe Smo for a marketing job. Why should I hire Joe? And unless they've worked with you, it's kind of hard to answer that question, right? Like, it's hard for them to sell your story for you if you actually haven't worked with them. Yes, it's good to find somebody who can refer you, who works at your company that you want to work at, that is in the dream job that you want. Yes, it's a good thing. But remember, if they get asked, hey, why should I hire Corey? Oh, I don't know. He added me on LinkedIn. Seems like a nice guy. Does that really help your case? Like, is that really going to get you an interview? Sometimes it may, sometimes it won't. But that's why the best place to start with is coworkers, old, current, anyone who can actually talk about your work product. That's the best. This is going to get you the best bang for your buck. This is your best ROI in terms of investing your time. And also, if you are thinking about getting a job, you're unhappy at your job, maybe you're predicting a layoff at your company, some reductions in force, this is a nice reminder. Reach back out to some of your former coworkers, your former bosses. Start to rebuild your relationships. Check in with them. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them how their family is doing. Rebuild these connections so when you do need their help, you're not just reaching back out of the blue. They don't feel like they're being used for just a referral and you don't actually care about them anymore. What if you've been self-employed? Well, if you've been self-employed, you probably had customers of some kind. You probably had clients of some kind, right? People who can talk about your work, like why you are so good at whatever it is that your business provides. Customers and clients are also great referrals as well. And I think someone actually, yep, someone, Laura nailed it. She already predicted my answer. Absolutely. Yes, you could marry the boss of your potential next job. That also works. All right, so this is my networking hierarchy or the pecking order that I believe you should be investing your time in order to get the best ROI. And for those of you who are more on the introverted side, you're going to really appreciate this slide because as you can see, strangers are the last person that I actually recommend you talk to. So if you're an introvert, you're probably thinking, thank God, thank goodness. I don't have to put myself out there, have really awkward, uncomfortable like conversations with people I don't know. Like I gotta fake to be someone I'm not, so someone likes me. Don't worry. That's the last type of person that I actually recommend. So, as I mentioned, I explained why coworkers are the best, past or present, because they can talk about your work. Also, this is a good way to figure out who could be a good reference for you. A lot of the top tech companies will do reference checks, especially if you're at like the executive or manager plus level. You will need to pass reference checks. So, this is also a good way to figure out who are people that I can call that can speak very highly about me. So think about your projects, think about the different companies you've worked at, think about your former bosses, who actually liked you, who do you think maybe didn't like you that much, who thought you did a really good job. Those are the people you should start with because also they're going to be more motivated to help you, right? Because if they liked working with you, they're going to want to work with you again. So start there. Next is, and people almost always forget about this, but if you can't find someone who's worked with you and can talk about your work, the next best thing is someone who has gone to school with you because they can say, "Hey, oh yeah, I remember Corey. Yeah, he was the go-to person for all of our projects." Or yeah, Corey was so smart. He always got A's, right? Like if they can't talk about your work, at least they can talk about what you did in school, or they probably have some, hopefully, positive impression about you from school. Now, if you maybe graduated from school, let's say 20 plus years ago, maybe this one also doesn't quite help you that much. But if you've gone to like a master's program in like the last 5 to 10 years, something like anything more recent, this is also like a very good second place to start because at least they can talk about what you were like in school. Very similarly, right? If they ask them, why should we hire Corey? And they're like, well, I haven't worked with Corey, but I went to school with him. He was the smartest person in class. He always was the go-to person for our projects. Or we had to work on this really important thing, and then Corey helped solve X, Y, and Z. Whenever we had questions or we wanted to study for a final, everyone went to Corey for help. At least there's some context there that can explain why you're a good person, why you're a good worker, how smart you are, if you have good problem solving skills, just something to speak very highly of you. And of course, these people will be more motivated to help you because they remember you from school. You help them out. They have a good positive impression of you. You can see that's going to be like the general trend here is you want to find people who already like you and have that motivation, inherent motivation to help you. Because that's the big piece about networking is the other person needs to want to help you, which I feel like a lot of people overlook. They always assume that if I just message you on LinkedIn, you're going to just want to help me naturally. But it doesn't always work like that. Now, next, if you can't find or if you've exhausted areas one and areas two, then go to your family and friends. Yes, they can't talk about your work. I get that. Probably not the best referral at a company because they don't know anything about your job. Totally fine, right? Maybe your aunt works in marketing and you're an engineer. Okay, I get it. Not perfect. But what they do have is that other 50% that's really important, which is the motivation to actually help you, right? Like if one of my best friends told me that he got laid off and he wants help getting a job, he's my best friend. Like I'm willing to put in the time and effort to go to my network and try to find him a job because I care about him because he's one of my best friends. Or if someone in my close family, same thing. They want a job at my company, I will put in the effort, I will put in the time to do what I can to help them because I care about them. And with networking, that's 50% of the battle, right? And so this is why this is the next best place to go to. And also, this is like free, natural, like widespread networking, meaning you go to your parents, you go to your aunt and your uncle, you go to your best friends. They may not work in the industry you want, they may not have the job you want, but maybe they've got friends who are in a marketing position. Their spouse is in a marketing position, right? They went to school with someone who works in marketing at some company. You never know who your family and friends can introduce you to. And if they're willing to make the introduction, that's also very good and effective networking. Finding people who are motivated to help you is half of the battle, and that's why this is number three. And then last is strangers on LinkedIn for obvious reasons. They don't have the 50%, which is most important, which is, are they going to help you? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So that's why it's not always the best use of your time. What if you want to pivot to a new field, such as the tech space? Yeah, if you want to break into tech, assuming your resume is great, you've got solid work history, you worked at a top company in whatever industry you are that's not tech, applying online is going to be difficult because as someone who recruits in tech, uh, unless you've got Meta, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google on your resume, it's not a slam dunk, right? You don't get guaranteed interviews unless you're already from those companies. So how do you break in? You got to get someone who works in tech to get you an awesome referral, right? Hey, you really need to look at Corey's resume. He hasn't worked in tech, but he's been a recruiter at X, Y, and Z companies. He was the best recruiter I worked with on my team when I was there. You know, Corey had amazing impact. Please at least give him an interview. So if you want to break in, networking is your best bet. What if I feel guilty to ask my ex-coworkers multiple times to refer me? I was told I should look for new connections. Your option D. Well, that sounds like you have exhausted option A or option number one. So if you've exhausted everybody in your network, every single manager you've had, every single possible coworker that thinks highly of you, then go to number two. And then if number two is exhausted, then go to number three. So it sounds like you've already been through your whole network of colleagues and connections who can speak highly of you. So then move on to number two and number three. Is asking a former coworker if they will serve as a reference the same thing as networking? It can be, depending on how you're running that conversation. That actually may be a very clever way of trying to see if they're willing to help you, right? Which is like asking without asking. Hey, John, I am good. I'm actively doing my job search right now, and some of these companies are asking for references. Would you mind being a reference for me? No problem, Corey. I'd love to be a reference. Thank you so much. Also, by the way, because I am looking, if you or your company is hiring, please do let me know. I'm interested in X, Y, and Z types of jobs. Thanks so much. We should catch up soon. It's a great way to like ease your way in there and see if they're willing to help you. What if you had your own startups? Oh, good. I've been working with folks from idea to IPO on this. Same thing. If you had vendors, customers, clients, people that can talk about your work firsthand, that's also very good. Employees you've hired who can talk about why you're such an awesome boss, why you're the best engineer they've ever worked with, why they chose to work for your startup over other companies. Same thing. Someone that you serve with in volunteer roles fall under not necessarily. It's not as good because if you're in a volunteer role, that means you didn't have to apply to get that position, right? You didn't have to go through an interview process to get there. If they could talk about your work, if it's relevant for a job that you're applying for, that could be good. But when I think of traditional volunteer roles, I think about like volunteering for Second Harvest, right? You're serving meals for the homeless, you're Habitat for Humanity, you're building houses. So unless that's related to whatever job it is that you're applying for, it's also kind of hard to speak about your work product. If you're an immigrant, well, welcome. Welcome. Don't have classmates, coworkers, even the family here. Then you got to go to the option number four. Got to go to option number four, which don't worry, I'll explain how to best do that in option number four. Okay. So how do you do number four? So let's just say you're in some of these situations, right, that I'm seeing in the chat, which is I did one, I did two, I did three. I got no one left, Corey. There's no one left in my close network. Well, then you're going to have to go to number four. You're going to have to find and make connections with strangers. I know it's very daunting, very scary. It's not optimal, but sometimes you just got to do it, right? And so I don't know if any of you have heard of this guy, Ramit Sethi. He wrote this book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. It's a personal finance book. It's honestly one of my favorite reads, and I was a finance and accounting major. I recommend this book, and I'm not being paid for this. I wish I was, but I do recommend this book to anyone who hadn't had like any business schooling or any personal finance courses. It's just a very easy to read book. Tells you like how to manage your credit score, like what you should be doing with your 401k, all these things to like help you build and save up for retirement. I just recommend that book in general. But um, I really admire this guy, and I'm not going to reinvent the wheel if it's already working. Don't fix something if it ain't broke. And one of the things he's put out on his website is 9 word for word scripts for getting in touch with busy people. And I have the PDF link that I'll put in the chat for everybody. But you can Google it if you want, but I really, really stand and live by these networking scripts that he's developed. And I've used them myself. You have to modify them, of course. There's templates, but they do really, really work. And this is what I would recommend you use if you need to network with strangers. Now, this is one of my favorite scripts to use. It works across industries, and it's super effective. And he breaks down as to why this is so effective. And there's key parts in here that I do want to point out, and parts that I've kind of also tweaked and altered for my own approach. But this is just one that I think is really good for everybody. So ideally, if you can get someone's email, that's best as opposed to LinkedIn, because as someone put in the chat, not everyone checks their LinkedIn profile. As a recruiter, I can tell you I message people all the time on LinkedIn, and people will like don't even check. So it's best if you can get an email or text message, phone call, whatever. But if you can't, this is honestly one of the best scripts. So first, right off the bat, your subject line is super important. This is the first thing people read. This is will determine, am I going to open this email? Is this spam? Like, do I even care? So right off the bat, if someone is a second degree connection or someone can introduce you even better, use their name first, right? Like figure out why or who is someone that they care about that would cause them to even open your email, read your message, call you back, listen to your voicemail, etc. So right off the bat, he says, who introduces him? Who is your second degree connection? Who referred you to this person? Then they give a little bit of context about who they are. Now, you don't have to put this in your subject line because sometimes if I'm like, it's a student, like, I don't hire for students, like, I don't know if I want to help you. So you can figure out if you want to add something to the end of your tagline, but you should at least have someone's name, some reason in your subject as to why they should even open this email. Same thing, lead off with your introduction. Super key. Now, also, I want to point out the more important the person you're trying to network with, the higher the level, maybe it's a hiring manager. Like if they're super important to help you get a job, then do some homework and try to make a connection with someone second degree to them that can at least give you some kind of introduction, right? The more important they are, you need to put in the legwork beforehand before sending a random message. Like imagine you're trying to network with Elon Musk, right? You want to get a job at X or SpaceX or Tesla or whatever. If you just DM Elon Musk, he's not gonna answer your email. He's not gonna read your message. But maybe you found out who his executive assistant is. Maybe you know who his brother is, his mom, his sister, his whatever. Maybe your kid goes to school with his kid. Who knows, right? Find some reason as to why Elon would even care about you, and then use that to open up your message. Okay, then you give some quick introduction about yourself. Now, honestly, I don't think you need to give your introduction right away because it already makes it seem like you want something from them. You can put your introduction actually kind of in the middle of your email, but if you want, you can put something at the top. Everyone has different styles. Then you put your ask, right? But you don't just say, hey, I want a referral, right? Here's my resume, refer me. you need to give him or her some reason to care about you, right? Like, what's your value add for them, which I feel like everyone overlooks, which is a key part of networking, which is, and I saw this, you guys have this as a part of your agenda, which is your give and your ask, which is awesome that Nova has already kind of taught you this. But oftentimes, whenever I get messages for referrals on my own LinkedIn and emails and things, there's no give, right? Like, why do I care about you? Like, why should I go out of my way to help you? Maybe it's something personal. Maybe you're adding some value to me. Who knows, right? Maybe it's just because you're my best friend's kid or something. I don't know. But there's got to be some reason as to why I care about even helping you. And that's what you should lead with. Now, in this case, this person, his value add here is that, hey, I've already done a whole lot of research about you, your company, your role, and the other value add here, which I think everybody should use whenever they're networking, is you make it super easy for your recipient to help you, right? You want to reduce the amount of back and forth messages because every message you guys have to go back and forth for scheduling logistics, finding a time, like where should we meet, Zoom, phone call, emails. Every back and forth message creates friction and layers, which reduces the chances of them actually getting on a call with you, them actually helping you. So here in this script, you make it super easy. You give options, you give days and times, multiple days and times. You tell them how long they need to talk with you. Shorter the better, right? Because if someone's like, Corey, can I get an hour with you? I'm like, I don't got an hour to talk to some stranger. No way. 10 minutes? Okay, I can find 10 minutes somewhere. That's no problem, right? Give me some options, make it super easy for me. Tell me what time zone this is for. And if they're in a different time zone than you, make it easy for them, right? Don't be like, hey, can you meet at 8 a.m. or 8 a.m. EST? And I'm like, so that's 5 a.m. for me. No thanks. Like, you clearly don't care about me. You only care about yourself. You only care about what times are convenient for you, right? Make it super easy for the person to help you. And also just say, hey, I can work around your schedule. You're doing me a favor. I will do whatever I can to make this super easy for you. Every message that you have to go back and forth just to schedule something is like a chance that this doesn't even happen, right? For those of you who have tried online dating, you can think about it just like that, right? Like every message that you have to go back and forth with some person that you're trying to court, if they don't respond to you, you're like, oh man, maybe I didn't ask the right question or I didn't make it easy enough, right? It's like, hey, let's go on a date. Okay. What day is good? How about Wednesday? Oh, I'm busy Wednesday. Well, how about Tuesday? Okay, all right, Tuesday sounds good. What time Tuesday? Oh, I'm free after 5. You could just see how this is so exhausting, right? At some point, they're going to be like, okay, I'm over it. Like, I'm going to go on a date with somebody else who's more organized. So use this script, but just remember, use these key things. Make it easy for them, provide options and days, try to find some give, tr try to find a way to give value, and get someone to introduce you or name drop somebody. Find a second degree connection to make sure that they actually read your message. Okay, let me just check the chat for questions while I also blow my nose very quickly. Oh, employment agencies. I think they're great options. They typically only hire contract roles. Sometimes they have full-time positions, but it is a tough job market right now. And if you need a job, you need some income, definitely should explore working with contract agencies. Benefits are not super good, but a job is a job. What if you offer them a $5 coffee? I mean, if I hopefully we can find something else to add value, but if not, it's still a good offer. And thankfully we're not in that COVID era anymore where people are like, I don't know, I want to meet in person. But you can still offer multiple options, right? Oh yeah, great question. So, you may not always want to lead right away with your introduction because it seems more like those messages you get on LinkedIn where you're like, your eyes glaze over and you're like, this is some general referral request or someone just trying to use me for something, right? It's kind of like, you guys ever get those spam cold calls, right? Where they're like, "Hey, Corey, my name is John. I'm from Windward Nissan. I'm calling with a great offer," and you're like, "Hang up." Like, no thanks. But instead, if they're like, "Hey, Corey, do you want to save $10,000 on your next car purchase?" Oh, yeah, I mean, okay. I want to save some money. By the way, this is John from Windward Nissan. You bought a car from us 5 years ago. You got a, Toyota Highlander. Just wanted to see how's your car doing. Oh, hey, John, my car is going pretty well, right? It's like totally different conversations and how those can play out depending on whether or not you lead or you make it seem more salesy, more like gimmicky with your reach out. So instead, I would say lead with your value, right? Lead with how you can help them. Hey, Kevin Wu recommended I reach out to you. Kevin speaks very highly of you. Kevin and I, both worked at X, Y, and Z company. I was actually his former boss. I helped him get this job. Kevin recommended that I reach out to you because blah, 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 blah. By the way, my name is Corey. I'm a technical recruiter at X, Y, and Z company. I'm looking to make a switch and I'm hoping to pick your brain on X, Y, and Z, right? If you lead more with the value or the give up front, I'm far more willing to keep reading and see who you are later on. And yes, let me put in the chat very quickly. This is the PDF link. I'm gonna put that in the chat for everybody. Boom. Okay. So next, I actually would love to hear and kind of break this up a little bit just for everyone so you don't have to listen to me the whole time. Does anyone have any cool or awesome networking success stories? I'd love to hear one about someone who got a job from networking. You can use the thumbs up function. There's 117 people here. There's no way there is 0 people besides myself who got a job from networking. Yes.
Hi, I don't quite have a job yet, but I did network with one of the people from Nova Works. She introduced me to a preschool director, and they offered me a teaching job for an amount I couldn't afford. But we started talking, and they're right now they're in the process of trying to make a job for me in the preschool, and and nothing is set in stone. I haven't tried anything, but it's close to what I used to make before. And I'm just really grateful because I learned all the skills from Nova Works
Well done. I
that I
love that.
needed. So
I love it. I love it. I love it.
thank you.
But I think the key here is that someone from Nova introduced you to this person at the preschool who then liked you, tried to give you an offer, right? I think that's the key, right?
Right,
Someone was willing to vouch for you, introduced you, just like in this script, right? Kevin Wu recommended I
right,
talk to you. So and so from NovaWorks recommended that I talk to you, and they're probably like, oh, I trust Vini. Like, okay, let me talk
right,
to Alisa and learn more about her background, right? It's way better than just reaching out yourself blindly, right? Like, hi, I'm Alisa. I need a job, right? Okay, cool.
thank you.
One more story. Who feels comfortable sharing?
I can share one if that's okay.
Excellent.
So
Please.
it's actually not for my job that I'm going to be starting in about a week, but actually my last job was VP of Learning Sciences. So I had reached out to my former supervisor. Actually, I think it was the other way around. She told me because we had just been in contact networking about a company and an article that sounded really interesting and was close by. And so then I did do a reach out to the stranger, and that was the CEO for this small startup. And I ended up working with them for a year and a half. Startup means not necessarily last forever, but it was really, really great opportunity, and I'm glad it worked out.
Woohoo! Awesome. Love it. So two keys there, right? First is it was a former coworker, actually a former boss, right? Which means most likely they loved working with you. So you probably made a very good impression. And when they're thinking about who are awesome people in their network, she came to mind. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, of course, is that she was already maintaining that relationship. So it's not like, hey, boss, we haven't talked in 5 years. Remember me? I need a job. She's been maintaining that connection, that network over time, and then it just comes up naturally, which is the best way to network, right? Which is like you don't even need to be like, hey, I need a favor. It's more like, hey, Corey, I was thinking about you, and this is a great job. You should apply, right? So as you can see, all these things I've covered so far have led to these success stories. And I didn't pay these people, I swear, I didn't pay these people um, to talk about these things. And if we have time at the end, I'd love to hear more success stories because it's always good motivation. Okay, so here are my networking rules to live by. Some of these are pretty obvious, but some of these I feel like people forget. And yes, these are little things that you may be thinking is like, that's not gonna matter. It matters. It matters a lot. And again, I'm gonna relate this to online dating because as someone myself, I'm going through that online dating phase. I'm, hopefully trying to find somebody this year. And let me tell you, it is the little things. Like you say one wrong thing, you say one wrong message, and then they're like, nah, I don't want to talk to Corey. Or like, I'm gonna cancel this date with Corey. Yep, see, people get it, people get it. So it's the little things that matter. So the very first one, and this is a networking like killer. Never, ever, ever reschedule. Every time you reschedule a networking call, reduces your chances of them actually talking to you. For those of you who don't believe me, give it a try. Schedule a call and then text them last minute and be like, I'm so sorry, a work meeting came up. Can we reschedule? Tell me what the likelihood is that they're willing to actually reschedule with you. It's pretty low. It's pretty low. It's pretty low. Remember, like, if I have no idea who you are, worst case scenario, right? I'm in category number 4. I have no idea who you are, and I'm like, fine, I'll take 10 minutes to talk to Corey. I don't even know who this person is, but fine, I'll take 10 minutes out of my time. Maybe I gotta block some time on my calendar. I gotta like make sure I have like a babysitter. I gotta drop my kids off from school. I gotta coordinate with my wife to figure out who's gonna watch the kids while I take this networking call. And then this guy's like, hey, sorry, I can't talk today. Something came up. Can we reschedule? I'm like, dude, Corey, I don't even know who you are. I just made all these arrangements in my life to like do you a favor, and you're not taking my time seriously, right? Like, no thanks. I'm good. Now, I understand life happens, work happens, emergencies happen. I get it. So when you're reaching out to these people and you're offering times to connect, just don't offer times where things could come up, like during the workday. Offer times maybe in the evenings or on the weekends. Or worst case scenario, you take a vacation day and you do all your networking calls in one day, right? Like never ever reschedule on somebody unless it's an actual emergency. So if you have a regular day job, typically from 8 to 5, 8 to 6, then just don't offer to schedule a networking call between 8 to 6 because work can come up and you'll have to cancel. I get it. Then just don't offer that time. Find a way to make it super easy for them, never reschedule, reduces the time. Also, for those of you who have tried dating, again, just to hammer the point home, you ever reschedule a date, the odds of you getting another one, like after you rescheduled, it's super low. We've all been there. We've all been there. Okay, the next piece, which I think all of you are learning from Nova, is try to find some give, some way to add value. And the way that I look at that too, and if you don't want to think about it as like being transactional about like, oh, I feel like I'm just using them because I hear that a lot, right? I'm just using somebody. Then just do what I do, which I mean, granted, I'm more of an extroverted person, but the way that I like to approach networking is my goal the whole time is to honestly see if I can just become friends with you. That's it, right? Like my first thought is not, oh, how can I use Vinny to get a job at this company? No, it's like, okay, first, my first thought is, okay, do we have something in common? Can we bond over something? Can I find a way for us to at least have some type of friendly connection where that one of us is willing to help the other person just because we got along so well? And for those of you who want like a thought exercise, think about, okay, who's your best friend or one of your best friends in the whole world? And you can't pick your dog. How did you two become friends? Just think about it, right? Like, how did you and your best friend become best friends? I guarantee you weren't coming up to them and like, "Hey, Corey, I see you got that juice there. I want that juice. Can you give me some of your juice?" It's not going to be your friend, right? You probably realize, hey, we both like soccer. Hey, we both love knitting. We're both from this really small town in Iowa. And wow, what are the odds that we're both running into each other here in California, right? Like you've probably found something that made you two like each other, and now you're friends. And now, if your best friend needs a favor, what are the odds that you're willing to help them, right? Like pretty high, right? Like if my best friend told me they needed something, like I would try to help them. So think about how you can approach networking from that lens as opposed to I need a job, I need something from you, and you'd be surprised at how different these conversations go. And as Nova has taught people, try to find a way to give before taking. Now, for me, when I was a college student and I was having all these networking conversations with like directors and managers at these consulting firms, like I don't really have anything to give them from like a monetary perspective, from like a career perspective. Like, how am I going to help their career? I'm a nobody. I'm a college student. I'm like 20 years old. I can't even afford to take them to coffee, you know? Like I don't have budget to take people for Starbucks. So you gotta get creative sometimes. What was my give? Well, I'm from Hawaii, born and raised, and a lot of people love to vacation in Hawaii. And so what I did was I put together this gigantic spreadsheet of places to go, places to eat, awesome hikes, right? Like non-touristy places to go to on Oahu when you're planning a vacation with your family. That was my give. So everyone who was willing to talk to me, I was like, "Hey, have you gone to vacation in Hawaii? You should." And of course, they're probably like, "Oh no, it's on my bucket list," or "Oh yeah, do you have any recommendations for me?" Of course I do. I'm gonna send you this gigantic Excel spreadsheet with the best places to eat, the best places to stay, the best hikes to go on, right? Like the fun activities to go. Everyone loved it and it cost me nothing. And remember, I was a 20-year-old college student. I really don't have any value to offer anybody, but I figured this is something. So find a creative way if you don't want to spend money to add value to people. Okay, I see like the chat is blowing up. Let me just check here. What does the give look like when reaching out to a second degree connection who is the hiring manager? Well, maybe the give is a second degree connection, right? So that means you know somebody who knows this hiring manager. Can this person that you know introduce you? Can this person speak about your work? Make the hiring manager care about you, right? Find a way for that second degree person to introduce you. Any strategies to minimize friction if they reschedule? Yeah, same thing, right? If they're like, "Hey, sorry, Corey, I can't make today's call," your response should be no problem. Here are 10 options of times that are easy for you on your time zone that work for my schedule, guaranteed. Also, should we just do a phone call if you don't want to meet in person? Is there too much traffic, right? Like find a way to make it super easy for them. Should networking start with doing a favor and then seeking to call in the favor later? You could. You could. That's honestly how I like to do it too, is just so people don't feel like they're being used. But everyone's got different time crunches, right? Like maybe you just got laid off, you need to find a job ASAP. You may not have that time to be like, "Oh, let me like do something nice and then call in a favor later." So you got to figure out everyone's taking different circumstances, but that's also why I recommend you network all the time.
Yeah.
Meaning maintain your relationships. Now, it doesn't mean you got to have 50 networking calls a week. That's too much, right? Figure out who is a super connector in your group or in your network. Ideally, like director plus level, right? Someone who's pretty high up, pretty senior, very well connected. You just need like one or two people that you're constantly networking with who could help you when you need help. This requires a lot of patience, where sometimes in your job search, so much time has gone by that you are so desperate. How do you break through this? Yeah, I mean, yes, it does take time, and you will have to build these relationships back up. You're gonna have to invest in certain connections in your network. How do you break through it? I would say you got to find what works for you. Maybe you're not super extroverted. Maybe this is super exhausting and energy draining to like have all these conversations with people. Then that's okay. Then don't go with the volume play. Go with the quality play, right? Who is like the best manager I've worked with that can speak about my work that's willing to help me? Okay, it was John Schmo. I better reconnect with John somehow, right? Probably shouldn't lead off with the fact that I need something from John right away. So maybe I should just grab lunch, coffee, phone call with John, see how him and his family are doing, let him know I'm on the market, but don't ask for anything, right? Rebuild that connection slowly over time. Focus on what works for you. Maybe it's the quality piece, maybe it's the quantity piece. Do it in a way that's not so exhausting. Okay, cool. So let me go through the rest of these. When you are having your networking conversations, be organized, right? Have a purpose to your call. Make sure you've got some questions lined up. I can't tell you how many times. It's mostly like college kids, but like if I'm like, sure, I'll talk to you, and you get on a phone call, and then you're like, hi, nice to meet you. How can I help? Well, I guess like it'd be cool to know about your job and like what do you like about working at your company? Right? Like, come on.
No.
This is not going to accomplish anything for me or for you, right? So if your purpose is to find a way to add value for them, then make sure that that's your purpose. Be organized when you're on the phone call. Have your questions ready. Find whatever commonality you need to so you can become friends or so that you can have a good connection or that so they know what your role is, what kind of jobs you're looking for, where you want to work, right? Like if someone's willing to help you and you're like, okay, cool, like what kind of jobs are you looking for? Oh, I don't know, like maybe like some marketing, I think. You're like, what kind of marketing? Oh, are there different kinds of marketing? Like, come on, man. Like, yeah, there's digital marketing. Do you want to work at an agency? Do you want to work in-house, right? Do you want to do you want to do product marketing? Do you want to do digital marketing? Like what like retail marketing? There's so much marketing, marketing operations, marketing systems, right? Like be organized. Oh, Corey, what kind of companies do you want to work at? Remote would be good, but like I'm thinking I could move maybe if it's the right opportunity. Yeah, I'm open, right? Like that's not very helpful, right? You should tell them, yeah, I only want remote jobs. Or look, I live in Sacramento. I'm looking for jobs either in Sacramento or fully remote. I am willing to move, but it would have to be in San Diego or Austin, right? Be organized, like make it easy for them to help you. And then, of course, as I've said, these last 2 points, quality over quantity, find your super connectors, make sure that you're maintaining your relationships over time so it doesn't feel like it's so transactional. Ooh, I love this one. I have a former colleague who's now a director level at one of my target companies. Perfect. Hopefully they liked you. So hopefully that they liked you. Um, Recommendations on how to re-engage contact. I would say add them on LinkedIn and just make it seem like you're trying to catch up first, right? Like this is someone that's obviously super important to helping you getting a job. So I would say if you have the time, slow play this, right? Don't come in right away with your ask of like, I want a job. Hey, like, hey, Corey, oh my gosh, you're a director now. This is so amazing. Like, we should catch up. Remember when we used to do X, Y, and Z at the office? Remember when we used to blah, blah, blah? Remember that project we did that was so funny? Remember that time where so and so spilled coffee and it was so funny? Like, oh my gosh, I'm still remembering that. Like, let's catch up, right? I would say re engage, rebuild that connection, get some rapport, have them become your friend, then do the ask. This is like a super important person to help you get a job. So I would say slow play this. LinkedIn seems people connect with you and there's nothing more afterwards. That's because they just add you and then they expect you to like do something afterwards. Like I get that all the time. People literally just like click connect with me. They don't write a message. They just like connect with me. That's it. I mean, yeah. Like I would say if they're going to connect with you and there's nothing more afterwards, like you shouldn't be that person. Be that person who has an ask or a give. Sorry, I should say a give. Have a give. How to approach former colleague who posted a job on LinkedIn for hiring. Same thing. Same thing, Faye. Like, oh my gosh, Corey, it's been so long. Like, how are you? Like, remember when we used to do blah, blah, blah? You know, like I would go that way. Okay, now lastly, let me hit this and then we can open time for Q&A. Networking events. I get this all the time. Are they worth it? Which one do I go to? Like, what should I be doing? High level summary, most networking events are not worth your time. Nova, I'm sorry if you put on events. I love your events, but um, I would say most of them are not worth your time if it's a general event. So first bullet point there. I would say generally avoid these like open to all jobs type of networking events. Mostly because it's not a good use of your time because it's not targeted, right? So the two that I recommend, or I should say three, are in the next three bullets. So if there's like a software engineering only type of networking event, or like some type of like AI and hardware networking event, right? Or something super specific to your job or the job that you want, that's the best ROI because everyone there is there for the same type of job. That means the companies there are just hiring for that specific job, right? If you're a company at this AI and hardware networking event, that clearly means they have jobs for that type of job. So that is the best use of your time. The second one is if there is a specific company hosted networking event. Sometimes these are invite only, but sometimes there are also open ones, right? So if Google is hosting an event, if Meta is hosting some type of networking event at their office or their headquarters or whatever, those are really good to go to. Why? Because they're going to have recruiters there. They always bring recruiters. Like if a company is willing to invest money in a networking event, that's them being like, hint, hint, I have jobs, which means they're going to send recruiters there, which means you can get in front of a recruiter, you can explain your background. For those of you who are like coming from smaller companies that may not have that brand recognition, those of you who are doing a career switch, you need to get in front of a recruiter to explain to them your background, like how you're still relevant for them. And these companies are going to send recruiters there because I'm one of those recruiters who goes to those events. And then these don't happen often, but occasionally there are like very small, like super exclusive networking events that tend to be more on the intimate side, right? Like it's like a 15-person max networking dinner at some steakhouse or whatever. If you can get into those are also very good uses of your time because it's quality over quantity. There's not going to be hundreds of people there where like everyone's just like schmooze, like trying to schmooze around, get as many business cards as possible. Like if it's a super intimate like networking dinner, that means you're going to be sitting next to two people and you can build a natural relationship with these people. And then because hopefully you can become their friend, you can find a way to give to them, then they can help expand your network even if they can't directly help you. And then when you are at these events, I would say don't be the person that's like, okay, 50 people, 50 business cards, like, let's do this. And you're like, hi, I'm Corey. Nice to meet you. I'm a recruiter. I want a job at X, Y, and Z company. Where do you work at? Oh, you're not that company? Okay, no worries. Bye. Have a good one. Next person. Hi, I'm Corey. I'm a technical recruiter. How can I? Blah, blah. Oh, no? Okay. Business card? Here's my business card. Here's my resume. Next? Okay, bye. Take your time. Go slow. If you're at these events, it's quality over quantity. Try to find like three high quality connections. High quality means if they leave and you add them on LinkedIn later, they're going to know exactly who you are and why they should help you, right? That's what a high quality connection is. So take your time. Like if there's my favorite thing is if there's someone standing on the side looking awkward, feeling uncomfortable, no one's talking to them, like that's perfect. I'll walk over, introduce myself, just make sure that they feel included, feel comfortable. You'd be surprised how these people are like, "Oh my gosh, like someone actually like came up to me and made this like not awkward." I really appreciate this guy Corey for doing that. And then boom, now you've already had a give, right? Like your give to them was making them feel comfortable at this super awkward networking event. Your give to them was making sure that they were having a good time, that someone was at least talking to them, right? And if they can't help you immediately because they're not in your industry or your job, that's fine. But they're going to remember that Corey was so nice and he came up to me and he made it not weird. And he made me feel comfortable at this networking event, right? Like That's a high quality connection who has that 50% that we care about. The 50% is, are they going to actually help you? So those are my general rules for networking events. Okay, let me go back to the chat. Okay, is there a bit of a trade-off? Initiating some back and forth before going in for the ask, there is the risk that they may drop off the convo. There is a risk, right? But if they know who you are, and if you're having a good conversation or you're adding value in some way, probably not gonna drop off. And of course, if you're just like, hey, John, you're a director now, amazing, blah, 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 let's catch up soon. Here are the days and times where I'm free. Love to do a quick phone call, hear how you and the family are doing. There's no back and forth, right? It's like, oh, Corey, so good to hear from you. Yeah, let's talk Tuesday, 10 a.m. Here's my cell phone. Call me. Right? There's like if you use the scripts, there's not much back and forth too. Networking, yeah, that's funny. Uh, you you could have a business card, yes. But what should be on it? LinkedIn, email, phone number, job title. Um, yeah, and I guess if you have like a Calendly link, that would actually be pretty cool. If you had like a Calendly link that had your open times for networking conversations. Yep, someone said, yeah, reach out again, make sure that they're doing okay. Also, it could be maybe your former manager didn't have a good impression of you, maybe. And that could be why they're not responding. Good resource for online networking. Besides LinkedIn. Besides LinkedIn. Facebook, actually. Facebook would be good. Not so much for like finding people by job titles, but like, hey, who are some of the people that I went to school with? Or like, what was that person's name who sat next to me? You know, like it's good to like find other people's like information and contact them if you can. If they don't have a LinkedIn, but you remember like your boss's name, like maybe try to reach out that way. Mike, I see you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, one question has like if you have any preference, a meetup, like to connect with people in the same peers, definitely that probably would be one of the best way to connect as well. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Meetup.com is also very good. But try to go to those meetup events that are like job specific, right? I wouldn't go to those general like networking event, 200 people come. Um, how about networking for director level roles? Okay, so if you're trying to network for like director plus, executive level plus, that's the point where it's like you need to get some introduction, someone to introduce you to somebody. So you got to think about like who's a degree connection, who do you network with first, who can then set you up to network with this other person, right? Or also if you're already at that executive level, if you're at that director plus level, then leverage your existing network of directors from other companies to then introduce you to somebody or make a recommendation. I honestly like I don't even know if business cards are like even still a popular thing these days. But it doesn't I guess it doesn't hurt to have one. Doesn't hurt to have one. Once you connect, how do you ask them to introduce you to the hidden jobs in the company? Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I think if you're just asking for like if you're able to comfortably ask for a referral where the person is willing to go out of their way to help you, then they would already know about those hidden jobs in their company. But also FYI, like that's like a total myth thing. Like I haven't not worked at a single company where there's like a hidden job somewhere. Like I mean, I've never heard of that. Like where it's like, Corey, I've got this job, but don't tell anyone that I'm hiring for it. And then I'll be like, so if you're not hiring for it, how are you going to fill it? Well, it's a secret job, right? So I only want people who know about my secret job to apply for my job. So yeah, I don't know if you know that's a thing. Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, the reason that probably previous person that mentioned is right now I have a family member that works in a company that actually posts job opportunity only to internal. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so it means a person like me might not be able to expose to get that even file online. The only people that have access is from internal. So that hidden job that you probably indicating is for people internally, they can apply. So if you get that kind of access, I know extra hurdle be able to go through that, but that's probably what I assume might be able to discuss in this option in these situations.
Yeah, but also if like not every employee is going to know about these like hidden internal only jobs. And if a hiring manager wants to take only an internal candidate, then that's just what they're going to do, right? It's mostly because maybe there's some type of role elimination, someone got, someone's job got cut and they want to save as many people as possible. I'm sure they've got their own internal reasons as to why it's internal only too. And so it's always going to be an uphill battle even if they knew about it. Yeah.
And Corey, we are running out of time. I could tell we could have you here for hours. Maybe you want to make one or two final statements.
Yeah, I would say in a super competitive job market like right now, networking is super great. Getting a good resume is great. But if you're able to land interviews, you need to take the most opportunities you can. You may not get that many opportunities for a while. Most companies don't get headcount until I would say January, February timeframe. And even then, we don't even know what the job market is going to look like in 2024. So if you are able to get interviews, make the most of them, which means take each opportunity very seriously. You should study, you should prepare. You're going to have a ton of competition, especially if your role is hybrid slash remote. You're competing with the whole country, so your interviewing skills need to be the best. A general trend I've seen, unfortunately, is people think that if you can check the boxes, that's good enough. It is not anymore, right? If they're like, tell me about yourself, and it's a marketing role, and you're like, I've got 10 years of marketing. I've done X, Y, and Z for my company. I've generated $3 million in sales. Like, hire me. That's just checking the box at this point, right? Like your pitch needs to be stronger. Like, why are you the best digital marketing person at your company? What are some transformational projects that you've led that very few other candidates can say that they've done? So when you are getting these opportunities, you need to make sure that it's beyond the check the box activities. But yeah, and someone asked about career coaches. Please check my website out, careershakers.com. Also got a YouTube channel, Career Shakers, all one word. Yeah, it was awesome. I would love to come back again. Thanks so much, everybody. And I also need to run, so thank you, thank you, thank you. Sheridan, you are muted, by the way. I have to drop.
Oh, thank you, Corey. We appreciate it. Bye-bye, everyone.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
I
you.
didn't mean to say goodbye to everyone. Stay. Let me put the slide up. We're going to start our 5-minute break so that we can stand up, be refreshed, and we're going to go right from there. So please stay with us. We have a lot of great stuff coming on. Okay, I'm going to start the timer.
Hello. And is he the boss? Is he your boss? These people are great. Give him a raise.
All right.
Sure.
Welcome, Michelle. We're taking a quick break and then we're going to turn it over to you.
Hey, whatever. Oh, yeah.
We are under a minute. Start coming back. Turn your cameras on. That helps us know when people have returned. And we are going to move on to the next part of the agenda. I'm going to cheat us out of 30 seconds from our break so we can go to our job search tip. And we are moving on. Wasn't Corey great? We always love when we have him. All right. So with that, I guess I could go like this. I am going to turn the time over to Michelle Fisher. She's one of the career advisors in San Mateo. And I get asked every time Michelle comes, can I book an appointment? Yes, you can call San Mateo. Today, she's going to give a quick tip on contracting. So I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, no, it's on here, isn't it, Michelle? Okay, go for it, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. As Sheridan said, I'm one of the career advisors in the San Mateo office. And I wanted to cover contracting because I think it's really important, especially in this tight competitive market, right? You need to keep your options open. I put a little graph in here that I pulled off of Yahoo Finance. It's a recent study that happened this year or was printed this year. But as you can see, the contingent workforce, the temp workforce, whatever you want to call it, it is growing. It's not going down. The flexible workforce numbers are climbing. And depending on the source, the numbers could be for contract workers anywhere between 40 to 50%. So it is growing. It's something you should consider. Speaking from experience, prior to coming to NovaWorks in 2021, I worked as a contractor for 3+ years. I did 4 contracts with 2 companies, and I did have 2 breaks. One was my choice and one was the pandemic's choice. So I do have some experience working as contracting, and I loved it. It was awesome. I wanted to do contract work. So why contract work for you, right? So contract work, the obvious, money, closes the gap on your resume, provides networking opportunities, new industries, there's flexibility. You can keep your skills up. You can maintain or learn new skills. But more importantly, and especially now, what I'm seeing with members is the psychological benefits, right? You feel valued when you get a job, right? You have structure, you have a routine, you have a schedule, and your confidence increases when you're working. So now maybe you're getting calls from agencies, right? You're not really interested. Maybe the job isn't what you really want, or maybe the pay is kind of low. But still consider it. And like Corey said, keep your options open, have a conversation, talk to them, right? And if it is a job that you're not too excited about, treat it like an internship, with an end date. It'll make it tolerable. You can do anything you set your mind to if you put an end date on it. All right. Types of contracting, there's really 2 types. You're either going to be a W-2 contractor working through an agency, or you're going to be a 1099, a consultant or a gig worker. If you go the W-2 agency route, which most people do, you're going to work through an agency. Things to think about: if you're a contractor through an agency, you are eligible for unemployment benefits when that contract ends. The taxes, you don't have to worry about them because they're taken out, right? Now, if you're a 1099 consultant, like you have your own business, maybe you're a gig worker, you don't qualify for unemployment benefits. Some people didn't know that. So if your position ends, your contract ends, or whatever, your project, you're not eligible for unemployment benefits, and you must pay your quarterly taxes. Those are due 4 times a year. You have to pay those quarterly taxes, so you have to be good about that. But you can write off some expenses, so you'll have deductions, right? Tax deductions. So those are some pluses on there's pluses on the 1099 side. Some people refer to gig people or gig workers as it's really short-term project-based. But you'll hear gig workers like the ride share, the delivery drivers. Those jobs are usually more supplemental. They're not primary income, and that's why the numbers here probably get a little bit skewed. All right, considerations. So if you're going to consider contract work, consulting work, if you're through an agency, most agencies do offer benefits. They may or may not contribute. The large companies that use agencies, they will provide benefits, but the benefits may start day 30 or day 60, day 90. So you got to check with them. When your contract ends, you got to look for a new job, right? So you got to think about that. And you may have a gap in between those contracts, right? I've got gaps all over my resume because I've done contract work, and it's fine. It's how you handle those. And there's a workshop for that. Agencies. People always ask me, well, what agency should I go to? Which should I check out? Find an agency that aligns with your career goals and the role that you're targeting, right? Because there's so many agencies. There's 25,000 recruiting and staffing agencies out there now. It has exploded over the last 10 years, right? So what you can do is to start, maybe go to My Plan on the NovaWorks website. If you go to My Plan on Job Search Network, there is an agency list doc there. And it lists all the temp agencies and the industries that they cover. One of those agencies is Coast Personnel, and I was a temp agency recruiter there. That was one of my first jobs. You can also look on industry trends, also on our website on the main page. Those industry trends that we have outlined on the bottom of those, they usually have a reference to some of the agencies that you might want to consider working with, which are really specific to that type of industry. So that's helpful. And a Nova member gave me this tip. She got a job. She said, how I look, Michelle, is I find a company I want to work for. I look for people who work there and the jobs that I want. And then I look to see what agency they listed. And then I register for those agencies. And she got a job that way. You may not get called right away, but you will get called if your job aligns with what they're looking for. So I thought that was a great tip. And then other things, just do a Google search, right? You can just do Google search. Forbes has a great list, top 20 temp agencies for 2023. If you're maybe a mature worker and you're just looking for some part-time, some short-term contract, maybe some work, maybe AARP is a great website to check out too. They list a bunch of websites there that might be a good resource. Okay. And then finally, next steps. So what I would recommend is take the Contracting 101 workshop. I know we just had it on Wednesday in person, but if you didn't get a chance to take it, there's going to be one offered next month. It'll give you a lot more information. I'm just giving you the highlights, high level view, but they go into everything with W-2 and a 1099. Also, update your LinkedIn profile. When you hit that little blue button that says open to, make sure you click temporary and contract, right? It'll open up more options for you when recruiters do a search. Another thing you can do is, meet with a career advisor, talk through it and see which agency might be best for you, how to apply, work on make sure your resume is dialed in. Register, review the agency list that I mentioned, and register for one of those agencies. Just go to Adecco. I worked for Adecco as a contractor. Go to Adecco, they make it so easy. You can just go online, create a profile, upload a resume, right? And just do one, see how that feels and see if you get calls. But if you're interested in contracting work, like as a consultant, as a 1099, I recommend SCORE is a great option to get information. If you haven't heard of SCORE, they're part of the Small Business Administration, and they have 10,000 volunteers, mentors that will help you. They want to help you start your business. And that business may just be an online presence, just working as a consultant, just charging people, as your own business. So they're really helpful with that. And they're super nice. And you can just request a mentor. And if that person doesn't align with what you're looking for, you can ask for another one. I've done it twice. So those are my high level tips for contracting work to keep it as an option, especially in this tight market. Why not have other agency recruiters look for work for you while when you're registered for those agencies? All right. I look forward to seeing you in future career advisor appointments. If you need help with finding contract work, getting registered, please make sure you check out the resources on our website on My Plan and also the workshops. That's all I got. You're on mute, Sheridan.
I am having a problem with mute today. Thank you, Michelle, so much. What a great quick introduction to contract work. And we just heard last week, Suzanne told us about how she got a job by cultivating a relationship with recruiters. So keep on that. Thank you very much. All right. So we just a reminder about the new NovaWork Job Connector. You can click on the link and go from our website and create an account. However, today at 3:15, we do have a Job Connector virtual lab, and the link for that was corrupted, and we figured it out this morning. It is fixed. So because the link was corrupted, there's hardly anybody who signed up. We'd love to have you join. Just 45 minutes, great way to get questions answered. All right, so there you go. Success stories. Is there anyone here that got a job recently that would like to talk to us? Okay, Laura, go ahead.
Hey everyone, I'm Laura Triana. I'm just going to be starting a new remote job as a research associate in about a week. So I'm really excited about that. It's been kind of a journey this time around. I started my job search. I actually previously was with NovaWorks, and when it was ProMatch before in 2019. For that time, I had about April to October, about a 6-month period of time between jobs. NovaWorks was awesome. And so that actually, I got a temp job, but that just continued and was full-time. And then, I was good until February of 2022, when things at my startup that I was working for were not doing so good. And so first there was a cutback. So I was on partial unemployment. And so then I was starting my job searching, but I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe things will get better with this startup, maybe not. And so then in September, or by September, it was official, fully laid off. And so then my job search went into full gear. In October of 2022, I went to a job fair just because I was starting to just try and look at options. And it was at that job fair that I decided to apply to the public school system to be a substitute teacher. So my field is education. I have I'm more in from a research side of things. So I have experience conducting research in education for math and sciences, but had never been a substitute teacher before. So it involved some legwork, some costs on my end to be able to get an emergency permit. But since I had never had experience in a public school, and since my line of work is education, I thought this might be a good chance to have that connection in the schools. So I did that pretty much from 2022 to all the way into July 2023. So I did have some interviews through there, one that got really close and then it didn't work out. And then that organization that was a nonprofit got bought out by this huge for-profit company. And so I'm like, well, maybe I didn't want to be there. So anyways, so then I also got a temporary job. So I really recommend, I agree with Michelle that having that time of doing contract work just really helped my life to be a little bit more stable. Having the money come in, it's not ideal, but it was also hard to apply for jobs at the same time. So that is just, you're kind of balancing it at the same time. And so what happened for this particular position is on March 11th, I actually already had a plan of another job that I really, really wanted that I was submitting an application for. But that morning, one of my coworkers for my prior job sent me an email like, oh, this company is looking for somebody, you should try and apply. And then I looked down at the message, I'm like, oh wait, that's due today, because education jobs have actual deadlines sometimes. And so I'm like, okay, I better get that out. It was like at the end of the night after I just submitted the one application that I was like, oh, should I do this? And I was like, well, let me just do it. And that's the one that I got interviewed for. And now I'm going to be starting in a week. So my recommendations are 3. One is success teams. Success teams, I started to find one as soon as I found that I was going to be cutting down my time. And that was just been weekly meetings. I don't do the 6 weeks times. We've just been kind of going as long, and people can step back when they want to. It was really helpful. It evolved over that long period of time, but I still have a really great team that I've been working with. And I just said goodbye to them on Wednesday because I won't be meeting regularly, but I'm still going to maybe meet up for lunch or whatever. You make long-lasting friendships. So number 2 is having a routine. So the success teams actually help you to have a routine. And that you're checking in each week and seeing how things are going and making sure you have a goal and that you're trying to make progress. And you also have all that support of like, oh my gosh, I understand that sucked that you didn't get that job. Another just ghosting, that's terrible, and you don't feel alone. So it's super, I highly recommend success teams. Number 2 is having a routine, but don't just have it in your job search. Have a routine that focuses, like my 3 areas that I try and focus on is, yes, absolutely, networking and job search is one of them, but I also try and exercise in nature. In my case, we live in beautiful California, so having that time in the trees and nature is really valuable for my mental health. And then a third thing is to engage with family and friends. Make sure to make time to have that connections just that are outside of the job world too. And so the third recommendation, I think, is to definitely do some contract or other types of short-term work, temp work, at least after 6 months of not being in a job. I feel like if I hadn't done to seek that out, it would have been hard. And so that's my recommendations.
Wow, Lara, I'm so excited for you. And what great recommendations. Thank you very much. We wish you all the best in this new job. It's been a journey, but you've stuck with it. So that's great. Anyone else get a job that they wanted to tell us about? I don't see anyone. No? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is actually a previous experience, but this is something that, the guest, I forget his, Corey mentioned.
Corey.
Yeah. So I was a math instructor for about a decade, and I left that job because I was burned out. This occurred a few years ago. And what happened was my supervisor at that role, he got a job at Stanford University, and he was a recruiter there. And so then, I mentioned to him that, I left the job, and he basically told me that they're looking for a math instructor within like a professional development program there, and so I was able to get hired for that role, and I also held a dual role where I was like an HR assistant and an instructor, and the bonus of this was, he worked in HR, my supervisor, is that it was easier for me to acclimate, with Stanford, and also, and in addition to him, there was a previous colleague that was also an instructor in the professional development program that I worked with for about 5 years at my other job. So, he kind of helped me, basically showed me the ropes and everything. So it worked out well. But unfortunately, I was laid off due to COVID because, once COVID hit, it just put everything in a tailspin. But, it was an interesting experience.
It's a good story of interconnections.
Yeah.
Thank you, Norbert.
Sure.
Appreciate that example. Wow. We have learned a lot today. We are going to skip steps for success this week because I want to give you some give and ask things. And I want to make sure you have time to, network. So here we go. Let me tell you a couple of things. Nancy.
No, I'm sorry. I just don't want to miss the ask give, but please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. You've got one. Well, good. I'm going to call on you first. Give me just a minute and you're my first person up. All right. I mentioned the Job Connector Lab today. You can sign up for. Want to give you a preview the first time since COVID. I am so excited. We are bringing back our Nova customer holiday party. So save the date, December 13th, 1 to 3 in the afternoon here at our Sunnyvale offices. You probably saw the email that came out last evening about active recruitments. We had 4. We have the automotive engineer, embedded systems. We have the maintenance technician, the materials engineer, and the QA inspector. So read the descriptions. I know Vinny's going to put the links in the chat. If you are interested, you need to turn in a customized resume by Monday. So check those out. Also, we have mentioned previously that Nova has a senior office assistant position open. The deadline is November 20th. We would love if you have administrative office assistant skills. We would love to have people apply. I want to just remind everyone, please follow the directions exactly. That is part of an administrator's job, is the ability to be detail oriented. Government applications are a little tough, so keep reading carefully. San Francisco Airport is hiring, and so they have some events, and we'll get those to you. And then the other one I for sure wanted to mention is CAM, which is kind of a career support network group. They have meetings, speaker meetings once a month. This time it is on Marcia Davis Cannon. I know her, she's fabulous, and she's going to be talking on getting feedback from interviews and giving feedback to other people, the give and take of feedback. What do you do when you get feedback? So that is going to be great. That will be on 11/11 this Saturday. So wanted to let you know about that. Also, just one quick other item, Marco Rosa, who spoke last week, and he mentioned about a network that he's involved with called Career Actions. They have a list of 1,500 startups. If you are someone who is really interested in the startup world, please check out that link. And the last one I wanted to mention is Les, who's spoken with us, and he's giving a free workshop on November 15th. And it is an introduction to resume writing. So November 15th, and that's a free option to our members. All right. And with that, I'm turning it over to Nancy. Go ahead, Nancy.
Oh, thank you so much, Sheridan. Thank you for your service. And thank you so much to Corey for that amazing presentation. And I have an ask and a give. I'm going to say first, my give is for the Nova, the jobs that you have open. I forget what that's called, whatever. The job openings. The ones that the hot jobs that you're sending out, like you just said, those few things. So my Nova advisor had suggested to me that even though I wasn't qualified for the actual job, to let the company know that I was available for volunteering in a kind of like a lesser job, and just to let them know, hey, I can volunteer for this particular lesser job, and I send them my resume. So I will say that I did that, and it panned out. I got the volunteer job, and I got a little more experience. So I strongly encourage everybody to, if that's something that speaks to you, do it, because it was helpful and it was more skills for my resume.
Fabulous.
That's my
to hear that. That's great. And did you also say you had an ask?
I do have an ask. Please connect with me. My LinkedIn is NANCI-ROSENBERG at LinkedIn.com, whatever. But it's NANCI-Rosenberg, ROSENBERG. That's not my ask. But my ask is I really need accountability partners. And what that means for me is like, I'm going to say, hey, I'll apply for X amount of jobs, and I need to be accountable to somebody else who perhaps wants to do the same thing. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. I really want an accountability partner. I am having a difficult time with the applications, et cetera, et cetera. And connecting with one of you who also wants support would be wonderful. Thank you so much. And and also, especially Norbert, I would love to connect with you because I'm very interested in working at Stanford. So again, it's Nancy, Nanci, like ice cream, dash Rosenberg, Rosenberg at LinkedIn. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. And hopefully you can find an accountability partner. If not one, you may want to look at joining a success team. So thank you. Does anyone else have a give or an ask?
Hi, McGiff.
Yeah, go ahead.
We are looking for more people on our success team meet Wednesday from 2 to 3. And it doesn't matter where you're from, because I'm down in Milpitas, and I know someone, the person that runs it in Austin City.
Okay, Samson, put that information in
Sure.
the chat so people can reach out to you. That's great. Thank you. All right, glad to hear that. All right, we already talked about success teams. Oh, that's already passed. There is another success team meeting at the last week of November, so we'll have to look that up for you. Just a reminder that the NovaWorks Connections meeting is going to be November 3rd, 5:30 to 7. Set your calendar for that. In December, there will not be a mixer because we're having the holiday party, and that will by itself be a mixer. All right, so first round of networking. Vinny has set up the networking groups. What ideas of Corey's have you or could you implement? So with that, Vinny is going to open the breakout rooms and have a discussion and meet people that in your breakout group that you don't know. Take a moment for that. And Vinny will let us know when they're open.
I'm just making sure as people leave, we have enough in each room. I think this is about good. Okay, here we go.
So yeah, with the guest speaker and networking, I definitely thought it was really useful just because, it seems like a lot of things when you're going through like various stages of getting advice, you hear in other meetings like networking is important and it's like full stop. It's like, okay, but what do I actually do? It's like, oh, coworkers. Yes, I need to keep connected with them and keep those connections hot.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's the best place to network with. Yeah, I recently have quite a bit of activities with my former coworkers. And so we met up with even the parties, funerals. It's just different places, but it's really good way to reconnect. And so, most of people willing to help. So, yeah.
And I think also it was a good advice that we have to maintain relationships. So that what is I was very bad in the past, and I think it will take a long time to have those relationship again. Yeah, to that level that I can easily ask something from them.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is something for me for the future. I definitely have to do better.
I know it's like out of our comfort zone, but if you have a former colleague who had to work with you for a long time, they know your job. It's actually very naturally when you talk to them. That's how I feel, and as and also believe, which is right after meeting them, and I never even ask about the job, never ask, but they would say, "Hey, I get this one. I thought about you. Look at this one. Yeah, I know someone." So immediately I already got the several referrals. So I
Yeah.
thought it was really
I would say, Alexander, don't be too hard on yourself about not having maintained those relationships, because I mean, there's so many people you know and have connected with. It's impossible to know who to do that. So I think his advice today about like find whatever a handful or less number of people that you really want to maintain, that's more doable than, I mean, I have, again, 20 people that I could be connecting with, and that is like a smaller list, but it's still impossible to maintain those really regularly. But even like reaching out like once a year, be like, hey, how's it going?
Yes.
If that works.
Yeah. And now it's coming to the holiday season. I think that's
yeah.
the time.
And it's totally reasonable to be like, reach out like, oh, it's been so long, how are you doing, kind of thing. And so yeah, don't feel bad about how you haven't talked before. Everyone, they didn't talk to you either, right? It's not like it was just
yeah,
so.
Yes, so it was not just my thought from the perspective that I'm looking a job. Just there I had some people who I really loved, and we were good friends, and we haven't talked for 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's the modern
Time
world right
to
now makes it hard to maintain those. But in some ways it's really easy to some extent, because now we have Zoom and all these other ways. But now you have, again, even more people that you could be maintaining relationships. So it's still, you have only 24 hours in the day. So
yeah, I have it's all of a sudden in the last couple of days, there's some position posted in a LinkedIn, which is that's I'm targeting, and okay, the position I like to apply. And I happen to know those, it's a former colleague. So I was really struggle to how should I crafted a message to that person. In fact, last night I spent quite a bit of time just to even, I just, there are a lot of things you have to consider, because especially they know you, but not so much, but how are you going to position yourself? It's like, okay, you don't want someone, feel uncomfortable, right? If you ask for, interest in that position. So, but it just so I really used Chat GPT. Helped me a lot. I was trying to use that. Hey, make it a warmer, because they use that. Okay, the short message also make it shorter and warmer. So then when I look at it again, oh, okay, sounds better, but still not quite good. So I just revised it several times, and then finally I got it. So I sent it out. It's like, wow, it's time consuming. I feel like, because you have to struggle with your I don't know, it's ego or something. It's just like, okay, it's uncomfortable. Yeah. I needed some courage to do those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, I think the scripts and the PDF, did everyone get the PDF downloaded in time?
Yeah.
That was definitely really helpful. So I think we're supposed to wrap it up. Any last people want to, who haven't got a chance to talk, want to share something for the last 30 seconds? Oh, Michelle.
Yeah. What's the name of the agency? Yeah, there's a list in
recommending is called Career Actions with an S. It is a career group that's mostly out of the East Bay, but people all over the San Francisco Bay Area. CAM is Career Action Ministry, and they have success teams. They have monthly speakers. And so that is the difference between the two. Next week, we have Betsy Flood coming, talking about the importance of identifying company culture. I've had so many people in career advising appointments say, I want to work for a company with a culture that resonates with me. Betsy's going to talk about that. Let's see, Sash, you have a raised question. Go ahead quickly.
What is the link for the career action?
Career actions. Vinny, can you put that one back in the back in? That'd be great. And Mike, you had a question.
I see careeractions.org.
Yeah, thank you. All right. And so we want to do one quick second networking group. This is our job search check-in time. In the last month, have you reconnected with past colleagues? Have you made a new connection? What would help you get started if that is about your least favorite thing to do in the whole world? Okay, so with that, Vinny is going to mix up the groups and put you in a different group. And while she is doing that, Brianna, did you have a question?
Yeah, real quick. I put it in the chat. The link to Les's registration, it's not accepting personal email addresses.
Okay, we had this problem.
We seem to run into that.
Yeah, we've had this problem before. Most people can register, but we always end up with a couple of people for whom it's a problem. So I would say
I'm going to put Les's personal email right here.
He'll fix
so
it for you.
Contact him if you are running into trouble registering. Here you go. It has been, there's occasionally being one or two people that are for some reason having trouble. So go ahead, contact him. And we're doing larger groups this time. So just a reminder to make sure everyone gets a chance to share. It will be a larger room, but those who want to share, please make sure everyone gets an opportunity to do that. All right, here we go.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
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 Hello, Shantara.
So I think the question was, have you connected with a colleague in the last month specifically?
Yes, it was.
Somebody want to go first?
I haven't either.
Here, we could do it thumbs ups or thumbs down. How does that sound? With our little reactions. Oh, there's no thumbs down. You can do either a yes or an X. So we can kind of do a recent time. So I got hello. That's good. Looks like we got a good half, maybe. So would it be helpful to talk about, have each of us who have connected to talk about what went well about it, and then we can maybe have the people who haven't just talk about what any other further questions they have. How's that sound? We have, yeah, still about 13 minutes left. So in my case, I'll just start real quick. It was to actually get references to be able to get my job. So I needed to reach out to them, and it went well. And one of them got an auto email saying that they were out of town. And so then I got reach out to a second one in case but then they also responded pretty fast too. So I was like, oh, so anyways, it was just via email for the most part in my case.
So
So that will depend on the position. Or sorry, it'll depend on the company. Different companies do it differently. So you want to ask whoever you're trying to get the referral from how their company works. Some companies will want you to apply through their system, and then you let your referral friend then talk to the hiring manager for you. Some companies need your referral friend to do the application for you, and you just have to ask.
And I have seen the situation where you apply also online and you send it to your friend, and then they send it and they're like, oh, we didn't see that in there, but now we see it now because your friend just sent it to you again. Sometimes it ends up being actually both works, but again, it really does vary. I think Ting-Yi makes a really good point. So. Anybody else want to talk about their reaching out in the last month?
Yeah, I can say a few words. I did reach out to an old, not manager, but somebody who was higher up in the organization at a previous company that I used to work for about 4 years ago, and actually met up with him for lunch. So that was very useful. And also I went to a conference, industry specific conference. This was in the life sciences industry. It's called the East Bay Life Sciences Summit, and met with several people who had startups and who were also trying to network. So I think that was a useful exercise, even though no direct connections came out of it, but it was useful to just know what's going on in the industry and in the geographic area and so on.
Yeah, go ahead with, yeah, see your hands raised.
Hi, so I just quickly wanted to mention that I haven't really reached out to any of my previous co-workers, but I haven't taken the feedback from Corey's talk today. I do believe that I will do that going forward. So it's a good takeaway for me. Besides that, I just had another question, is that sometimes asking for these kind of referrals, even to your co-workers, it may take take time, and sometimes the job applications are that you need to apply them soon enough, because otherwise they, then there are other applications and then you may run out of time. So how would you recommend doing both of them? Like, would you go ahead and apply for the company any which ways and then wait for the referral to come in and then apply again through the referral? Or do you just wait for the referral first and then just take the chance on, on waiting for the referral?
I don't know that waiting for a referral is really useful, because you don't know when or if it will happen, right? So if so you can, I in my opinion, you can always connect up, like I think Laura said that you can all, depending upon the company, you can always then link up the referral to a job application that you've already put in. Because you really don't know. If you're waiting, how long are you going to wait? You have no idea when it'll come or if it'll come.
Yeah, I mean, I've done both. Well, so I have done that in the past where I waited. It might have helped. I didn't get that. That was actually, I didn't like that company at all. They were not very respectful of their candidates at all. So, but I that's the process that I'd used, but it ended up kind of being a waste completely, even just applying for that particular company. In this particular case for the job I'm starting, so while it was, my friend referred me to it, it wasn't, I didn't use her as a referral per se. I just applied directly. So, and that seemed to work. So, it's always a
I can only speak for myself, but I always wait for that referral, and I try to go after numerous people at that company, and then I follow up every 1 to 2 weeks till I get somebody. Then I ask them, even if they tell me, "Oh, apply on the website," I would say, "Hey, can you give me a referral?" So I try to push the issue. I would do both, but then I wait. But then, I do wait, but I keep, following up on a weekly or every 2-week basis. That's what I do. You can go ahead and apply. It's just that in my personal experience, applying for jobs seems to be one of the most useless things you can do. So that's why I'm always trying to get those referrals.
And have you received any success after waiting?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, so I mean, I'm not going to tell you 100% of the people I ask help. I'm not going to say that. But think about it. If I ask 3 people, one of them is going to help me. If I ask 5 people, 2 of them will help me. So same thing here. So every company you're asking, don't just ask 1 person. Ask 5. And there might be somebody who has no business helping you, and they'll help you anyways. The people that should have helped you don't help you. So.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Farhan. You never know who will want to help you and who you think will help you
Very true.
does not help you. So yeah, I like what he said. Yeah.
Anyone else wants to share their experience?
Well, I just want to say I actually did like have like a phone number of one of my former directors. It's like a director, like my boss's boss, and I actually had the phone number, and I actually did call them a few weeks ago, and I left a nice message to try to connect and tell my situation, and that I'm still interested in that company and I worked there before. But I didn't hear back. But I did try. So yeah.
I tried to connect with my ex-boss, who was a VP and then became a CEO in a startup. And I waited for a couple of weeks.
Let me see the.
Should I talk or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I waited for a couple of weeks and I didn't receive any response. So I pinged him again, and then somehow I got a response from someone else saying that he's no more. And I was like, it's 50 years old guy, and I was not expecting that, right? It's just that for 2 years we were not in touch. So anything can happen. That's what I realized this week.
Yeah, I think that really gets to Corey's or his point.
I was like totally, I don't know, speechless when I heard that.
Yeah, we're
I mean,
not.
I agree it's a numbers game, but that person, look for them on LinkedIn. Unless they're dead, they should have a LinkedIn.
No, it was active. He was on LinkedIn. So
add him on LinkedIn and send him a message about this.
Looks like LinkedIn is like forever. They don't remove links.
No, she's saying this guy died.